on the screen?
Yeah.
All right, cool. So, all right, man, we are live. And so I am here with Cory. How do you say your last name? Is it Hillis?
Yes, it is.
Cory Hillis. All right. Cory Hillis, owner and founder of Emf Solutions. You guys started in Southern California, I believe, and now you've moved to a much better state, in my opinion. So what inspired you to start the company, Cory?
Going back, I had major health problems years ago. And then I got into the holistic field in general because I had to become my own doctor because the doctors weren't taking care of business. So when I kind of got back to almost normal, I decided to become a practitioner and get in the field myself. When I was a practitioner, I realized that this EMF issue was gigantic. I couldn't really heal people the way I wanted to if they had this constant barrage of DNA damage, free radical damage, all these problems, and then they're trying to heal everything else in the process. So I had to address it, and honestly, I couldn't find any company that fully addressed it. The best company I had, I'm not going to badmouth anybody, but I had to have 3 items on a cell phone that would almost work on a cell phone, and they were $90 each. So it was $270 to fix one cell phone. And I said, as a practitioner, I can't sell this to my clients. I got to go figure this out. So a little bit of an engineering background. I used to work for Premier Research Labs, discovered the right studies and discoveries on EMFs, put it all together and created products that I think were way better than anything else still in the market. So I really created it for my clients. And then it accidentally blew up and grew into a business because I got so many referrals, and I had to shut down my business. Then my wife had to shut down hers, and we just kept going. I got so busy fixing houses that I had to train somebody else to do it. And now I have trainers that are training other people. So we just kind of are accidentally growing by mostly word of mouth because we had no marketing.
Nice. So with your products and stuff, obviously you're getting referrals from them, you're getting results with patients. So obviously you're getting testimonials. What kind of testimonials have you heard from people in regards to before and after with your product?
Well, I make it sure to tell people we don't fix symptoms. You know what I mean? So right off the bat, I don't promise anybody a symptom going away. What we do is we address the root cause of how EMFs are affecting us. Okay. When you take a giant stress off of your entire body and potentially any and every cell in your body, you get a lot more energy. And with that energy, your body is going to apply it to what's most important to you. The most common testimonial is more energy and better sleep. By far, we have that probably accounts for half our testimonials right there. And what's one of the major problems in this country is better sleep. There's like pillow commercials, and there's there's so many products trying to address that. I find that when somebody properly addresses the EMF issue, their sleep improves, if not completely gets better, over half the time. It's amazing how much the EMF issue seems to be probably a direct link to that. I would say better concentration. I think I said more energy. I wish I could continue on some of the other popular testimonials that I get, but I have to be careful making claims, because if I sit here and say all these people said this, one day somebody might try to say you're making medical claims. So I have to most of my testimonials I can't really post. And so that's a bummer, but I can tell you that on my phone right now, I could pull up my cell phone and show you hundreds, just pages and pages of testimonials, literally plural hundreds of testimonials. And I certainly don't have time to follow up with everybody. So it's amazing how often you take away the stress and somebody actually says, wow, I can notice a difference. If you don't, it doesn't matter. It still works.
Well, it's amazing, sleep is the vitamin S that people don't get enough of. And when people start sleeping, they start healing, right? So, as a chiropractor, I see this too, where, I've had great success with patients. They always, a couple of things they always tell me is, I'm sleeping better. And of course, if they're sleeping better, their body's going to be healing better, because that's where we do all the healing and regeneration. And also, when me and my wife in our home, when we minimize the EMF problem in our home, we started sleeping better right off the bat. And I even coined it as, you know what, I feel a stronger sense of peace.
Right.
It was amazing. It was like I mean, it was like a night and day difference, and it was instantaneous. It was unbelievable. So so anyway, so you created the products obviously for the as a solution for the EMF, hence the name EMF Solutions, right? So I think everybody right now is very, very worried about 5G because obviously we've had, you know, all the way up through 4 generations. And now I think more so than ever before, I find that more people are aware of the EMF issue. More people are talking about, you know, our constant exposure to electromagnetic radiation. But now we're going to go to the next level, which is the 5G, and people are even more worried about that. And, you know, I find a lot of people, including myself, don't have a full grasp on, you know, what 5G is. So can you tell us, like, what is 5G?
Well, right before I answer your question, just let me briefly take one small step back and explain to people, even before 5G is being kicked in or kicks in, the existing problem that we have with EMFs is already a mountaintop. It's already unbelievable, dangerous, life-threatening, and I'm talking about future generations having serious problems, whether we can even reproduce properly. I'm just going to quote, of the 10,000 studies, I'm going to quote just one quick one, and I could go on and on. I love this stuff. I mean, I hate it, the fact that it's true, but I love sharing and educating people. So real quick, the European Union paid millions of dollars for 12 different institutions across Europe to participate in a study to see how much DNA damage was happening from cell phone use, like on a phone call, compared to a chest x-ray. We all know, don't get too many chest x-rays, just get them when you need them, right? You minimize that. Right. When you have to have it, you have it. Otherwise, you kind of minimize that, right? Well, guess what? They found that one 24-hour period on a cell phone call would equal about 1,600 chest x-rays worth of DNA damage. So if you think you're worried about 5G, we already got problems. This is already terrible. That number has caused over 40 countries to pass federal laws banning Wi-Fi and cell phones in elementary schools and a host of other things. Now countries have already, entire countries, much less cities, have banned 5G or halted its complete production. So the rest of the world's much more educated on this subject than we are. But now we're taking a terrible, ridiculous problem. And I can tell you why that's even more ridiculous than I just named. Surprisingly, it's even worse than I just said. And then we're talking studies here. But you're taking a worse problem, making it even worse still because you got 5G coming in. And so 5G is just, it's all radiation. Okay. 3G, it was 2G on phones, and then 3G, and then 4G, and that's a faster internet. 4G is basically your Wi-Fi router spits out a frequency. It makes photons traveling light speed carrying energy. That's what radiation is. Okay. But they oscillate. They have an electric and a magnetic wave that oscillates, a force that oscillates as they travel light speed. Well, this oscillation creates chaos in the environment. And so that's kind of where the root cause that we address comes from. But this radiation oscillates at 5 billion oscillations per second on Wi-Fi. That's the highest 4G that we pretty much use today. So that's 5 billion ones and zeros for your phone to like transfer into like data, like your computer, like a video, phone call, voice, whatever. Right. So so what we're doing with 5G is we're making that 5 billion waves per second or hertz up to, right now, I think we're in the 20-some billion. So we're basically making a higher frequency. Wow. And a higher frequency just means a little bit more oscillating, shaking, and vibrating of the molecules, which is where the issues come from. And that's, again, what we address. And so a little bit more of that shaking and vibrating creates a little bit bigger problem. But I'm going to tell you, it's not the increase in frequencies that's the big issue. Okay, everybody's so focused on a lot of misinformation, complete misinformation out there. Let me just tell you, there's so much misinformation. There's much more wrong information than there is right information. Okay. So the biggest problem with 5G is we're just taking the already existing problem and blowing it up to many times more than we had before. That's it. 5G is not a new animal. It's not some new wild thing that does something different than the old one. It creates the same exact problem that your power lines create, and that's 60 waves a second.
Right.
That creates the same chaos and issues. It's just when your frequency go up, it gets a little worse. We've added so much Bluetooth and Wi-Fi and cell phones, and I mean, there's so much radiation in the air besides regular electricity now. We've just made an old problem much, much worse in the last decade.
Yeah.
So 5G is going to blow that same issue up.
Yeah, and you notice one of the things that's really highly concerning that I've started noticing, just seemingly just popping up out of nowhere, just seemed like all these cell phone towers seem to be just popping up overnight. In fact, from my house on one of the main streets, there's a street I drive to work on every day called Greenback, and I counted 8 cell phone towers really, really in close proximity to this main street. In fact, my office right now, there's a cell phone tower a block away. It's one of those ugly, fake looking tree ones. Mm-hmm. And so I think the biggest concern is the higher frequency, but then you have the higher frequency of cell phone towers just everywhere, so seemingly surrounding, just like you can't even drive for like a second without, no open space anymore. You see them everywhere. So is that a concern as well?
Yeah, of course. So there are way more cell towers than you even see. Yeah. They hide them. They paint them on. I've seen buildings that are on the side of the buildings, and they put the same kind of stucco around the towers so that you can't see them. Yeah. A lot of roofs have like a shed, 4 walls that go around them so that they hide them behind there. Wow. 3-story buildings have cell towers, and so do the really 20-story buildings have cell towers. Wow. If anybody wants to see how many, you can go to antennasearch.com. Okay. That's antennasearch.com. Type in your address, and it'll show you how many cell towers are within a 2 or 3 mile radius of your house. People will be trying to jaw dropped and say, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe there's that many." When I was in San Diego giving webinars or talks in front of groups or what have you, even when I went to all over the country, and I do this, I plug in the address of wherever I'm giving a talk. And many times there's 100, 200, 300 plus towers within 2 or 3 miles of the location that I'm talking. So it's like one Switzerland scientist estimated that we've increased the radiation from a cell phone call, like 3G style. In 2007 to 2017, we've increased that amount of radiation by a quintillion. Wow. I didn't know what the heck a quintillion was. But I think it's a 10 with 18 zeros after it. It's like a million trillions. So we've increased the amount of radiation that the Earth used to have by that much. And guess what? We're the experiment. Yeah. They didn't test it first. They just said, let's put it out there. Like, let's see how the public does with it. It's insane.
That's kind of the that seems to be kind of the MO. We're just gonna throw this technology out. We're gonna just, it's a race, right? It's a race to 5G, right? It's get it out there. We'll see what happens. It's a roll of the dice. I mean, they've done this stuff so many times throughout our history with, DDT and, all these different pharmaceutical drugs and stuff. They just try to get it approved really fast, push it out there, and then it wreaks havoc. And then they've made billions in profit and have forked out millions in lawsuits. So it's just the cost of doing business. I think the big scare with 5G is, like you said, there's a lot of misinformation out there. But with the higher frequency and everything, so what are we talking about, like as far as the harmful effects of 5G?
It's the exact same effects as 4G, 3G, and 2G. It really is. The most common testimonials we get are pretty much, a lot of them are just in line with what the biggest problems are. So the biggest problems, and people can go to the bioinitiative.org, bioinitiative.org. The reason I like that website is it's scientists and environmental groups and leaders from around the world. They've been studying this for now 15 plus years. They have over 3,000 studies summarized on this one website. They don't sell anything. They don't make any money off doing this. They're just trying to get this information out to the public. So if you want to read studies and see what it's causing, they will tell you straight out that it's causing sleep problems, lower melatonin production when you're sleeping, which means not only sleep problems, but like you were saying earlier, repair problems. So it's not just, are you sleeping like going to sleep, but are you repairing during your rest time? And people wake up tired. They're like, I don't get it. I slept 8 hours, 10 hours, whatever. I wake up tired. Well, that's because you've been repairing all this EMF junk instead of making melatonin, making adrenaline, all the other stuff. So tired, sleep problems, lower melatonin production when you're sleeping, all kinds of immune disruptions and problems, headaches, migraines, lower sperm count, all kinds of gigantic, and this is where the scary thing is, issues with reproduction from the women producing hormones to men producing sperm. And there are many scientists, including myself, that say this is probably the #1 reason why men in this country and in every modern society as of last year produce less than half of the sperm than when I was born and growing up.
Wow.
I saw that on regular news channels. They usually don't make it on regular news channels, but this one did. And it was kind of scuffed off, and they're like, wow, and they went on with their, whatever ridiculous politics and all the other news. And the important stuff was kind of glossed over. That's a big deal. Yeah. And the problem is our grandkids are going to have the most problem, and that's a whole explanation of why, but they're going to have 100 times bigger problem than we are, even if we keep up the same current levels of radiation, much less go to 5G.
Wow, man, that's crazy. And do you think that the constant bombardment of all this electromagnetic radiation, do you think that heavy metal toxicity has a negative impact as well? I mean, so many people have tested themselves randomly. Mm-hmm. I mean, there was the Environmental Working Group study where they did the test on 10 random women throughout the United States. And they looked at fetal circulating blood, and they found over 200 known toxins. And among those were heavy metals like mercury, high amounts of aluminum. With these microwave waves, I mean, I know what happens if you put metal in the microwave, right? I mean, when you put aluminum in the microwave, it's not good. So, I mean, is there a potential negative impact with the microwave radiation and, all of our heavy metal toxicity within our body?
Well, I'm going to tell you something that might blow your mind and everybody listening. Your Wi-Fi router uses the exact same frequencies that microwave ovens use. So you just hit the nail on the head. Now, metal amplifies the subatomic chaos, the shaking and vibrating problem that EMS create. So you get friction, you get problems. You can like watch the old Gremlin movie and you blow up stuff in the microwave or whatever. But potentially common sense. I don't know any studies. I haven't done any studies, but some of the people that become EMF sensitive, and that's now a medical condition according to the World Health Organization. Wow. If you become EMF sensitive, and there's about 3-5% of the world is already that, where you just can't be around the stuff, or you have major problems. Wow. I theorize that maybe some of those people have higher levels in metals, and that could be exacerbating the problem, just a contributing factor. But yes, having more heavy metals in your system potentially, theoretically, could make it worse for exactly the reason you said.
So in my mind, it would make sense, along with, minimizing as much as we can our exposure and minimizing the intensity of exposure. However, that's going to be my next question for you. But it would make sense to me that part of that protocol should involve, detoxing ourselves from heavy metals, whether it's
knock on wood, I believe our products work. When my wife and I they put up a 5G cell tower next to our house a few years ago in San Diego, in Mission Beach. We didn't know they did it. We just woke up feeling terrible. We didn't know what happened. We didn't sleep good. We didn't feel good. We felt like we had the flu, but we didn't. And we were practitioners, so we were trying to work on each other, figure out what the heck's going on with us today. And it took me a day or two to figure out that they put a 5G cell tower 15 yards from my window, like where I sleep and where I sit in the living room. Wow. So I put more of our product on the house, what would be today's equivalent of what's called a home harmonizer box. And then poof, I felt that calm that you talk about. We both felt great. She's really sensitive to EMFs. We stayed there for another like 3 years almost after that. So I kind of do think this is a fixable problem. So I think you should detox heavy metals, safely, just for being healthy in general, but it may not be as important if you have a product that you think is really working.
Right. And so explain that, because I have a 980 square foot office. I bought several of your products. I bought about $600 worth of your products, and I bought the EMF harmonizers, the plugins. I bought 3 of those from you, and I bought something for my wireless router. So explain the technology in that. How does that work? Because in my mind, I'm thinking like the average person thinks, right? So they're thinking, how does that little device block how does it minimize all this frequency coming in at the speed of light? It's coming around, it's everywhere. How is the product like that going to work?
Well, it's a complicated answer. I'm actually in the process of making a video that's going to be professionally done with diagrams and kind of drawings of what's going on, because I wish I had a really short answer for you. So let me give it a shot to not take up too much time. So EMFs, every physicist in the world pretty much that knows anything about an EMF will tell you that there's no way an EMF can damage DNA and can harm your cell. Yet all the biologists are saying, well, you guys must be dumb because you have 10,000 studies here saying that that's not true. The 2 for years have been doing this, okay? Dr. Martin Pall discovered something 7-8 years ago up in Washington State University, that the EMFs are causing this little sensor on your cells called a voltage-gated calcium channel sensor to be activated. It opens a door that's not supposed to be open until you need the calcium. Right. It's opening this door, so any calcium floating by, at least a double ion calcium molecule, can just fly in your cell.
Right.
This is what leads to the free radical problem, too much nitric oxide. That stuff leads to the DNA damage and all that. So reason I explain all that is because the EMF can't, at least I'm convinced, and all the physicists are, and when they all agree on something that's pretty powerful, the EMF can't directly hurt you. So you don't have to block the EMF. But the EMF in the microwave, how's it heat your food? Well, it's shaking and vibrating these molecules.
Yeah, from the inside out. Yeah.
Friction, that heats your food. You're basically taking a mini hammer and beating the heck out of it 2.5 billion times per second. Okay?
Right.
Well, when you don't have enough for a thermal effect, that shaking and vibrating of the molecules, maybe it doesn't heat things, although we've proven that your cell phone against your head does heat your head from the inside because of the shaking and vibrating. Mm-hmm. But let's say it's not a thermal effect. You're across the room from a Wi-Fi router. Well, the Wi-Fi router is shaking and vibrating the molecules on the floor you sit on, the chair, or stand on the floor, the chair you sit on, the walls, everything has that shaking and vibrating at a subatomic level. That's why you feel calm, probably, after this is gone, because that shaking and vibrating is gone or minimized. So what we're doing with our products is we're addressing the symptom of the environment we call subatomic chaos. Those forces that are jumbling all around from this radiation. That's what our products address. We're kind of ignoring the EMF itself for the most part. Okay, we're more addressing the environment it's in. So that when you plug that plug into your wall, we use the wires in your house or your office or what have you to spread a field through those wires that go into, potentially multiple rooms or every room in your house if it's a home harmonizer, which goes on your electric meter outside. So we spread a field through your room, through your house. That field addresses the subatomic chaos, and that's how we address the root cause of this issue. Okay. I have videos on 9 different theories on how people are attempting to remediate the EMF problem. I believe ours is superior because we're addressing the root cause. And I explain in the videos how, like, negative ion necklaces, Schumann wave production, grounding devices, which is reducing voltage, all these things, almost all of them partially work because they're working on certain aspects of the environment or symptoms of the EMF. And like I said, I believe we're addressing the root cause better than anybody. I think there's one other way to do it. We chose a natural material that has 2 scientific properties in it to create the field I'm talking about. I can't tell you what that is because that's proprietary. We have patents pending and whatnot. But there's another way to do it with man-made technology. I don't go to man-made technology to fix the existing man-made technology problem, because we don't know if that could cause an issue.
Right.
So I'd rather go natural if you can, and that's the way we do it.
Yeah, and I like that. I mean, as a chiropractor, that's what we shoot for, right? So like going back to what you were saying, so the harmonizers work to balance out this field. Could it be said that they help to stop that vibrating chaos that happens at a subatomic level? Is that how you could say that?
I wouldn't say we're stopping it, because there's a lot of stuff going on in that subatomic chaos, but we're trying to address part of that chaos that we react to.
Got it. So in a sense, it kind of neutralizes chaos to make it harmless.
Say that again?
Is that how you could? So it neutralizes that chaos, which, rather than being harmful, becomes harmless because the harmonizers help to harmonize or balance it out or neutralize.
Yeah,
it.
we call it harmonize, organize. Mm-hmm. See, if an EMF, okay, I wish I had diagrams because it's hard to do like this, but if an EMF is in your space and it's shaking and vibrating, you got forces that are going up and down and sideways and front and back and all over the place. This is what happens, right? Well, if this EMF travels by a really strong magnet, what's the magnet going to want to do to those forces? At least the magnetic ones, because there's magnetic and electric forces. There's a lot of stuff going on. But part of the EMF is magnetism, mm-hmm. flying all around. What happens when it goes by a magnet? A magnet wants to align those forces up, right? North and south. Yeah. So when a magnet tries to align those forces north and south, I would say it's trying to organize that chaos, right?
Right.
We don't use magnets to do this, but that is an analogy of how I tell people this is working. A magnet in your back pocket partially protects you from EMFs. Wow. It's better than nothing. If you didn't have our products, which I think work a bazillion times better, when I was really sick years ago, I literally put a magnet in my back pocket. There's a Rife, R-I-F-E. You probably heard of Rife Frequencies. There's a company mm-hmm. that does those machines. They sell these little squares that you put in your back pocket for $20. They're just refrigerator magnets. Just go buy a refrigerator magnet for $1 at the store, and you can put that in your pocket. It's the same thing. I used to literally feel a little better when I was so sick. I was so sensitive. I'd feel a little better wearing that magnet. Now I wear the card that we made in my back pocket, and it's much, much better. But that literally a magnet partially does help remediate EMFs. And if that's all you needed, I really wouldn't have a company. I just would have put magnets in everybody's corners of the room or whatever. So luckily we found there's actually 2 properties. There's some companies, there's only one company I know of that's using one of them at all, or something similar, I should say. It's not even using the one we're using, but something similar. But when we found when there's 2 things present, it's just super powerful. And honestly, any rock in the ground, any crystal that you see at the crystal rock shows and stuff, a small percent, and maybe 1%, 2% of almost any rock that comes from lava that dries in the ground from a very long time ago, hits the right pressure in the right place and does the right things, has these properties. So there's a ton of it on Earth. We just know how to test for it, find it, put it in products.
Gotcha. And so you guys make products for the home. You make products for the car. You make products for, I have that little patch that goes in my back pocket, or you can put it in your wallet, right? All based on the same principle.
Yes, and we have different mixes in different uses. There's not all the same material. Some of them are totally different. Like what's in your pocket, that little card that you can put in your pocket, your wallet or what have you, is completely different than what's on your phone. Nothing is the same in the two, to be honest with you. So we just found certain things work better certain ways, but yeah, they're all based on the same principle for sure.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, it makes sense, man. And I think I don't think people realize how much wireless technology we're getting, how many EMFs they're actually getting exposed to. In the book I wrote a whole chapter on this section. And I read a quote from another book, and it was, we're exposed to 100 million times more electromagnetic radiation than our grandparents were. You know, when they were driving in their cars, they didn't have Bluetooth. They just had AM, FM radio. They didn't have, you know, sonar to avoid an accident or whatever it is, you know. You know, like my car, for example, has Wi-Fi, it has Bluetooth. And the thing that really sucks about a lot of these smart devices is you can't even manually shut off the Wi-Fi. It was funny. I inherited a 61-inch big ass TV that my dad gave me. This thing's huge. My dad's the kind of guy that thinks everything is, you know, the bigger, better. And so I put this thing in there and I didn't even think about it because it's a smart TV, right? And so I got my EMF reader and I'm testing this thing, and the thing is just, it's lighting up like a Christmas tree. So I try to manually shut off the Wi-Fi antenna. I'm like, we're not going to use it. I don't need it. So even though I shut this thing off, okay, I manually shut off the wireless on it. It was still beaming out a signal. It was every 15 seconds, it would beam out a signal like it was searching for a wireless router. So I had to take the back part of the plastic off the TV, find what the hell was the Wi-Fi antenna, and I had to unplug it to stop this thing from emitting the frequency. Because in my mind, it's not only do we want to minimize the exposure, we want to neutralize it as well. So, and you know, in my mind is if we can, you know, eliminate as much stuff as possible inside our homes, you know, along with neutralizing any EMF coming in from the outside. I mean, in my opinion, that's the best way to go. I mean, that's all we can do. But I understand as soon as we leave our homes, I mean, we're getting exposed to this stuff on an unprecedented level. It's unbelievable.
Well, you don't have to leave your home, because just get on and see how many Wi-Fis you can jump on from inside your bedroom. I mean, it's all around you. Your smart meter is right in your house. And the meter is very deceptive, by the way, because the meter, unless you're close to the source, it's kind of going to give you misinformation. You can be under the false pretenses that it's safe or dangerous if you only rely on the meter. That's a big mistake that a lot of the current experts are making. Is just looking at the meter, and I'm happy to give you all kinds of common sense examples that just put holes in those theories. I mean, let me just tell you one. Your smart meter, which when they were installed, a lot of people were having sleep issues and problems. It became a common thing, and there's websites and movies on a smart meter. Take Back Your Power is one movie that people can watch. They show blood under a microscope just standing next to that smart meter for 2 minutes. We also have the same test with our products on and not on, and we show that our products are working. Anyway, that's just another story. But from the inside of your house, your meter's not going to show anything that the smart meter's doing.
Right.
So if you just relied on your meter, you wouldn't even know the smart meter was there, because by the time that radiation comes through the wall, the original radiation, those photons are smashing into most of the stuff in the wall, the atoms, electrons, everything else that's so close together in a solid material. Almost none of it makes it out the other side. But the EMF isn't what hurts you. It's the ones that smashed into the wall that didn't come out, that created the chaos that hurt you. So it's the stuff that your meter doesn't pick up on, that it's causing our reaction. The stuff the meter does pick up on doesn't cause our reaction. So we're literally measuring the thing that doesn't hurt us, and we're not measuring the thing that does. And so ultimately, I started working on it, but just had a baby, and we'll see when I get the time again. But wouldn't it be neat if we could make the meter that measures the chaos that causes our reaction, so we have an actual meter to measure what's really happening in an environment? And that's one of my many interesting goals.
I think that would be awesome. So, yeah, and that was going to be my next question to you. I mean, do you think that people should get a meter? Like, I have a reader. It's from Emf Solutions. I don't know if you know of the brand. It just seems like a basic reader, and it reads green, red, and then orange. And orange is like, it's like what was it? The colors that the news would scare the shit out of us on. Hey,
Right.
we're in tear code red or whatever it was. Anyway, so yeah, I mean, do you think people should go out and get a meter and start testing this stuff? And
like I said, you can get a very false sense of security or false sense of danger if you don't know how to read the meter and use the meter properly.
Right.
If you're just using it to see where, like, hey, is there radiation in my car? Hey, is there radiation on my printer when I disable the Wi-Fi on it? Yeah, that's useful. But you can walk out in the sun, and the sun has the same amount of radiation as a cell phone on a cell phone call. So if we're only interested in how much radiation there is, and the sun has a much higher frequency than 4G, 5G, 6G, and 7G, which they're working on right now. So you would think walking out in the sun would be horrible for you. Well, that's a different kind of radiation. It's called unpolarized, okay? Almost all the man-made radiation is polarized. All man-made radiation isn't created equal either. So there's a lot of factors that make something, that make the chaos or don't make the chaos. But if you're just using it to say, holy freaking cow, look how much radiation there is. And the bioinitiative people say that when you go over 30 microwatts per meter squared, biological effects start happening to adults. Over 10, biological effects start happening to kids, okay? Wow. Well, that's based on 3,000 studies and scientists that don't make money off of their results. Well, your cell phone, as soon as you turn it on and hold your meter up to it, you can see that it immediately maxes out my meter that goes to 2,000. Immediately. That's 2,000. That's 60 times the safe level for adults and 180 times what's considered safe for kids. Actually, it occasionally goes up above 200,000, which is what the sun's going to give you when you walk outside. Again, a different kind of radiation, so I don't care about that one. That one may have ultraviolet rays and different things, but it's not going to do the same voltage-gated calcium channel problem that the man-made polarizing radiation tends to. So anyway, the meters are just interesting because you see how ridiculous this stuff is. Now, I do have something on my phone. If I didn't trust that I could fix this phone, that I could feel good about using this phone because my product's on the back, there's no way I'd use a phone. I would not have a cell phone. I wouldn't have a router. I wouldn't have moved where I moved because there's a cell tower, a giant one not too far away.
Right.
If I didn't really trust our stuff, there's no way I'd get the heck away from it because I know too much. So that does at least give some people a little, I don't know, peace of mind that the owner of the company believes in it so much that I don't turn my Wi-Fi off at night. I use a cell phone. I use all this stuff. I will say one thing though. I don't like, even with my product, having my cell phone against my head because there is a thermal effect that our products seem to minimize in tests, yes, but not always necessarily in tests like completely getting rid of it. So I'd rather talk on speaker, or mine's an Android, so I can plug in a cord and talk on the phone with a cord, and then my phone's in my hand instead of against my head. You also have more voltage-gated calcium channel sensors on your heart cells, brain cells, and the cells that tend to be in your organ and gland maker points in your body, organ and glands. So, palpitations, concentration difficulties, all these things are also common for EMF issues for people. Anyway, sorry to go off on tangents there.
That's so a couple of things there. What first thing is I talked to another maker of a product a while back, or actually I was listening to a podcast, and he said if your cell phone is 12 inches from your body, it automatically reduces your exposure by 80%. Is there any truth to that, or what's your opinion on that?
I'd have to do the math. I did some of this math. There's equations for it. I think if you're a foot from your router and it's 1,000, I think by the time you get to 5 feet from your router, it goes down to 200 or 400 or something like that. It significantly goes down. It definitely dissipates as you go away from it. But again, it's not the radiation that's the problem.
Right.
So if you're still measuring the radiation itself, that's the problem. See, energy doesn't disappear, right?
Right.
It's kind of a law of physics, just changes to something else. When EMFs change to something else, that's when we get our problem. So the EMF, for one of the problems with 5G, and the biggest problem is so much more the same. One of the problems with 5G is because it's a higher frequency, the wave, the original EMF, the original frequency that hasn't smashed into anything yet that you can still read on your EMF reader, that wave doesn't travel as far because it's smashing into stuff. And then and then you don't get that clear signal. So they have to put the towers like 1,000 feet away or less, because that's about how far these travel. The lower frequencies don't hit as much stuff and they can travel a lot further. Right. Now, does that mean the 5G 1,000 feet away plus one, like 1,000-foot one, because it's almost all completely gone? Does that mean you're totally safe because there's no EMF there? No, the energy didn't disappear. It just smashed into stuff and became something else. That something else is often what's causing us to react and the problem. So gotcha. Even though the meters may not scream that 5G is worse, it's terrible because you've added so much more of this all over the place that now the meters are even more deceiving when the frequency goes high, because even more of that frequency is not going to show up, which means you think you're safe, but the energy transferred into something else your meter ignores, but it's there. You know what I mean?
It's like my meter only goes up to 8 gigahertz, so it's not going to read anything above that, right? I mean, technically, it's only going to read at the highest, which would be 8 gigahertz. So
yeah, you'll read 4G. 5G, they don't even make a meter to measure yet. You have to have very high-tech, expensive piece of equipment. It costs tens of thousands of dollars just to measure it.
Wow.
So it's a tough one.
So this is my conspiracy brain, right? I'm a little like Billy DeMoss. I don't know if you've had any experience with Billy, but I know you've gone to California. So can this stuff be militarized? There was a movie that came out called Kingsman, and I don't know if you've seen it, but Samuel L. Jackson's character shot this frequency that came through people's cell phones. Everybody started going crazy. You just talked about the voltage-gated calcium channels in the brain. I mean, is it possible that these towers could be weaponized to the point where you make everybody just start going crazy? I mean, why would they even put that in a movie? That's where my conspiracy brain goes, you know.
There's a bunch of reasons for that, but maybe. I can tell you that Barry Trower, Trower, and Barry, I think, is Berrie. He will, if you Google him and Wi-Fi in schools and watch a 5-minute video, there's no way, if you take that physicist seriously, that you will not do something to protect your kids and yourself, in my opinion. Listen to that video. But he worked for the British. It's funny you say Kingsman. He worked for the British Secret Service and the British Navy as a physicist for years. One of his jobs was to use microwaves as weapons. Microwaves are just a description of 3G, 4G, 5G, 6G, 7G, you know, radar, all that falls into that range we call microwave. It's in the high megahertz, lower gigahertz range of frequencies, and gigahertz meaning like 1 gigahertz, a billion. So that's a billion waves per second. So yeah, he used that as weapons. He tells you that the people who decided to put Wi-Fi in elementary schools should be locked in jail. That's how he starts the video, because he used this stuff as weapons. That was his job. So how do you target people and all that? That's really complicated, if it is even possible. I do believe that almost the entire problem, I'm not much of a conspiracy theorist. I usually say follow the money, and you probably find out what's going on. Like the mandatory vaccinations, I think that's more powered by the company that wants to make billions and billions and billions of dollars, personally. And I think the EMF issue is powered by a bunch of companies that want to make a lot of money. And the thing is, if this is fixable, and I kind of believe it's totally fixable, if this is fixable, then I love this technology. I love having the Wi-Fi at any time I want, getting on the internet wherever I am, answer my emails when I'm in the coffee shop. So I'm not anti-technology. I'm not anti-cell phone company. I'm not anti-5G even. I don't mind the people that are screaming and yelling about it, because it needs to be screamed and yelled about. If you don't fix it, it's a gigantic, horrible, disgusting, devastating problem to the human race. But I do believe it's fixable, and I believe there's going to be, I'm in the process of proving everything, so that the average person and the CEO can understand, so that one day the cell phone comes in the mail fixed, and then the cell towers can be fixed. So when Encinitas is trying to ban all the 5G cell towers going up, for instance, it's a town in north of San Diego, among many others in Northern California and Washington State and so on. If they're trying to ban the cell towers, and we make those cell companies feel the pain in their wallet, in their pocketbook, so to speak, then maybe they'll say, heck, we got to fix these things before we put them up. And it's going to be hard to stop the 5G, in my opinion. Maybe we could do it, and that, whatever. I think it's pretty hard.
We're on a race, dude. We're on a race to 5G. We ain't fixing it, dude. We just got to protect ourselves, man.
That's what I'm thinking. And that's where I'm coming in. I want to be the guy who helps the world get fixed of this stuff. So, because there's, in 5G, let's just face it, you can be a surgeon in like South Carolina, where I'm at right now, and operate completely, perfectly safely on somebody who's in LA because of 5G. You can't do it with 4G. You can't have skippy, weird stuff. But in 5G, you can have such precision, such a neat bunch of scientific things are already possible, or will be possible with 5G. So I'm not against this technology if we can make it, not kill everybody, basically, in essence. So
right. Yeah, man. It's it's funny what you said, because I do agree with you. The problem is the magic ingredient in all that you've said is time. And so, it's like the milk issue, right? Monsanto created RBGH, the growth hormone, bovine growth hormone. They're pumping their cows. Found to be very harmful for women, for men, women, and children. But that was found over the long term. And then the solution was, organic milk companies got really savvy, and they started putting RBGH free. And it was a battle. Even Monsanto was fighting against that. But now most milks don't even have RBGH in it, but it was something that took a while. So my biggest thing is, with the higher frequency and stuff,
we don't have a while with this one, by the way.
The what?
We don't have a while for this one. We're screwing ourselves up.
Well,
according to the studies are saying we don't have a long time.
I mean, let's say 4G causes cancer 10 years, right? I mean, I've even heard 5G will cause cancer in half that time, 5 years, or maybe even sooner than that. So, it's just crazy. So, I mean, the health problems, are just going to happen just like that, and like you were saying, like they've taken towers out of schools because they have cluster outbreaks of cancer. You got administrative staff.
Other countries have taken the towers out of schools and away from schools, and cell phones banned them. Like in France, you can't bring your cell phone to schools. Elementary school, you go with no cell phone. There's no Wi-Fi there. If you want an internet, you plug in.
Yeah.
That's just for one example. I mean, I can go on like France and Italy and Spain, and there's 40 some countries, many of which in Europe, because they did some of the studies that were jaw dropping and eye opening.
Yeah. It's too bad that we can't, we don't really seem to have our shit together here in the United States.
You know what it's this. It's this.
Yeah.
So most people don't know, and you can Google it, look it up. But our federal government did a study, the National Institute of Health and some other organizations, 10-year, $30 million cell phone study. They did it on 2G. It's before, because it was a 10-year study, right? So they had to start a long time ago. They did it on 2G on phones. And they did it on a continuous wave, which I told you, like the kind of EMF matters. So they made the wave more gentle and less chaotic. They did it lower than anything like SAR ratings are. In other words, like at a lower level, like a low intensity level. and they did it on rats and mice. And they unanimously, all the scientists in it unanimously concluded that rats and mice were getting tumors and cancer from the 2G in 10 years, like unanimous. Then they gave it to an external panel of scientists to analyze the same data. They all unanimously agreed, causing tumors and cancer in rats and mice. They ended that study 2018. Did you hear it on the news?
No.
California has done their own studies on cell phones, proving that they're harming people. They swept it under the rug, kept it away from the public. A guy in Berkeley had to sue the California Department of Health. California Department of Health, right?
Wow.
Their job is to inform you of health issues. Their study concluded that cell phones were harming people. They hid it. And their website still said that radiation was harmless. So in 2017, they got sued, went to court. They lost, so they had to produce their own freaking studies because they were still saying it's harmless when their own studies disagreed with that. It's like you can't make this up. So there's a lot of people with money that would it's like smoking industry.
Yeah.
Except for everybody's affected, not just the smokers, you know? But they're sweeping it under the rug because there's money to be made, and they're like, it can't be too bad. Everybody's not dead yet.
Right.
Pretty bad. It's worse again for your kids and your grandkids. Watch Barry Trower's video for 5 minutes.
Yeah.
It may change your life. He got out of the Secret Service, military, Navy, and all that, and said, I don't care anymore. I'm retired. I'm going to freaking scream from the mountaintop and warn people that this is going to crush our earth or the people in it. So Amen. I would encourage your viewers to look that up. That's the biggest reason why I'm in this industry now.
Yeah. I watched, there was another good documentary that came out recently called 5G Trojan Horse. I don't know if you've seen that one. Guy's an activist. He's gone to city council meetings. I think the guy lives in Houston, Texas, and Houston want to be the first, the mayor of Houston want to be the first to be like a 5G city, you know, like everything 5G. And basically in the documentary though is as far as my understanding, is the federal government the FCC can put up these towers, and the city cannot say that we don't want these towers due to any kind of health reasons, right?
Yeah, I've been to those meetings in San Diego. So locals came out trying to protest the 5G, and at the end of the city council meeting, they said, well, federal law is already written that we can't trump federal law, so we couldn't ban it if we wanted to. Next case, like it just moves on. Like federal law is saying you have to have it, period.
I do know that there is a town in Northern California based on that. I saw this in the documentary. It's Pleasanton, California, which is very close to my hometown. And the city council said, no, we're going to fight this thing. They didn't want any of I guess they knew about the health risks or whatever. And they said, this is just crazy that we don't have a say here. The only thing you can really bitch about, to put it bluntly, is cosmetic reasons, right? And then that's correct. A fake palm tree or, you know, you
can say, hey, this is a historic building. You can't put a cell tower here. You can make up those kind of arguments. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I am going to leave a link to the website where people can go on and purchase your products. How can they get more info from you? What would you suggest that because the website's emfsolutions.com, right?
Yes. I'd go to your link because your link will take them to my site, and my site does have some good, useful information on it. We just did a relaunch of the website. We haven't been marketing before. We're just paying a guy to start getting it all together. We're going to try to educate people online because until now it's been like almost all in person. But halfway down the homepage is something that says self-assessment. So if somebody wants to say, well, gosh, what products do I need for my home? They can go click on self-assessment and it'll ask them questions. Do you have a home or condo? Like how many routers do you have in your house and so on? And it'll come up with a list of the products that are important. There's also a couple of bundles in the product page that's kind of like a bare minimum option, a better option, and then the best option, which is going to be what I just said, that self-assessment to do everything right. If we're getting that much DNA damage, if we're getting a tenth of what they say we're getting, and there's over 50 studies showing this DNA damage happening from cell phones alone. If we're getting that much DNA damage, I don't want 5% of that. There's no way I'm going to leave a giant gap in my life where I'm like, well, I'll fix my cell phone, but I'll use my laptop all day. Like, that's just stupid to me. That's crazy. So I'm going to fix everything. But everybody's budget's not that, so you do what you got to do. And I'd say fix where you sleep is the number one thing. As bad as the cell phone is, I usually say that's the number one.
Yeah.
And ideally with a home bundle or a condo bundle, minimum would be like a room harmonizer next to your bed. That's the most important. Number two, if it's a budget issue, is fix your cell phone, especially for men who tend to keep it in their pocket next to their family jewels, next to where we don't have any sperm anymore, right? And then three is get a personal device, like the card that you carry in your pocket when you're not home, or we have now wristbands, adult bands and kid bands that they can wear when they're at school, work, you know, out in the public and stuff. So at least you did, with those three, you did a pretty good chunk is being handled. You know, it's a good start. But for many people, until they do it all, they don't notice difference. I have a lot of people, like practitioners, you may know, that fixed their home, they didn't notice any difference, fixed their office, and then poof, they had this this thing lift off of them, and all of a sudden all this cool stuff started happening. So
well, there's certainly enough anecdotal evidence out there to show the before and afters that, to me, like, everybody kind of poo-poos anecdotal evidence, but if you have thousands of people who report improvements using these devices, minimizing their exposure, minimizing the intensity of EMF, balancing out, whatever you want to call it, you know, if they show improvement, that to me is solid evidence that this stuff works. And rather than waiting for the scientific journals to catch up and all that bullshit, it's like, we might as well do whatever we can now, right, to minimize our exposure, because if we just wait for those, you know, if we wait for the official studies to come out, you know, by that time, everybody's got cancer. So we might as well just start taking a proactive approach rather than this reactive approach, which is, you know, always been my message with everything. You know, I was going to talk to you about maybe possibly working on a project where we can maybe do a letter to get to, I would start with all the schools, elementary schools, you know, middle schools and high schools. I'm telling you, every high school within a 5-mile radius of my office has cell phone towers on their football field. So it's getting the word out to these, there's a way that they can neutralize it or minimize it.
You live in a place, so we have some especially trained reps. We have them all over the country, slowly growing, but we have some reps. My company has fixed many schools. We don't charge them. So if a school, generally speaking, lets me fix their school, which is really hard to do in the public school system. I've tried, and it's like nobody can approve it. They're all like, oh, see Bob, and Bob says see Mary, and Mary says see Tim, and Tim says see Bob, and you're back to the beginning. You're like, what? Ridiculous. But I fix a lot of charter schools and private schools and Christian schools and so forth. So we fix them for free. It's just one of the things that we do to give back to the community.
Yeah.
So you kind of need a rep because it's a little bit more complicated than a very simple house fix, that knows what they're doing, has done these before, that I've trained, and or one of our trainers has trained. So, but if you're in that town where we have a rep nearby, like, I'll pay for the products, and the reps will gladly like donate their time to fix it. Just FYI. So just keep that in mind. Maybe I can work through you if you wanted to start doing them in your area. I don't know. See if we could train you up or something.
Yeah, no, absolutely. You know, and I still have it in the back of my head that I do eventually want to become a rep and more of an expert in this area, because I think it's one of the biggest problems we're facing, other than the mandatory vaccine crap. So unfortunately, you know, it's like I talk to my buddies, and they're skeptical, and they think I'm just a whack job. And, you know, I go outside and I have aluminum that lines my that's how they think of me, right? They think of me as a tinfoil hat wearing whack job. So, but you know, regardless, I go out anyway. I preach the good word for all those willing to listen to the truth. I think people have to be very concerned about this stuff. So what I'll do is I'll post my link below. Let's plan on maybe doing another future talk a couple of months down the road, just to continue to get this word out there. And you actually were on Del Bigtree's show, right? Hi. Okay.
Yeah, I'm starting to go back down there again. He's not in California anymore, but he's gonna once we come out to Texas. Apparently, they just contacted me another week or two ago. So, yeah, he did a great. I think his interview is on the bottom of my homepage also.
Okay. Okay. Cool, man.
So that's great.
Awesome, brother. Well, dude, thank you.
One more thing.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
So people should follow your link, which will lead them to our website. And then it's not on the website anywhere, but if somebody really is a practitioner or just is passionate enough about this where they want to help other people and do this almost for a living, we have reps that do it part-time and full-time. And we have multiple certification programs, training online, and then we have trainers that help them and all this stuff, sort of thing. So if somebody's really interested, it's we don't offer it to anybody. It's almost like a job title that people qualify for. That's why we don't advertise it. But for the right person who's able to, like, you know, become a rep and get out there, ask us about it. Just shoot us an email and let us know that you're interested in maybe getting certified and learning how to help other people how to do this on their homes, their offices, and so forth. So that's just a thing that they can also know about.
Okay. Very cool, man. Well, you've been a wealth of information, man. Definitely calmed some of my concerns about the 5G, and I'm sure others are going to have questions and everything like that. So I'll post the link below, and then, you know, I'd say a couple months from now, let's plan on doing this again, man.
Sounds great.
Awesome, man. Thank you so much for your time, Cory. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Okay.
Have a blessed day, man.
You too.
Hey, man, that was really good.
Cool.
Yeah, that went good. I really like this app. So